Many nations are named after tribes or groups of people who lived in the land, but there are a few countries that aren't named after a group of people, but rather one specific person. We've actually looked at a couple of these before, with Eswatini being named after King Mswati II, and even the United States of America being named after Amerigo Vespucci. So with that, let's look at 5 more countries which are named after real people, who those people were, and why that nation ended up being named after them. The first one I feel should be pretty obvious to most of us, and that's the South American nation of Colombia, which is obviously named after Christopher Columbus. There are many places named after Christopher Columbus, from cities across the United States to a province in Canada. However, only one actual country is named after the man, and it must always be remembered that the nation is spelled with an O, not a U. The land that contains Colombia, as well as other nations, was once named by the Spanish Empire as the Viceroyalty of New Granada. However, when these nations eventually split apart, the name of Colombia was proposed by revolutionist Francisco de Miranda in ode to Columbus and the role he played in the formation of this new world. In Southeast Africa, we have the nation of Mozambique, which despite being the 16th largest country on the continent of Africa, owes its name to just one small island off the coast of the mainland of the country, which is called the island of Mozambique. The name of this island eventually became the name of the country next to it. So how did this island get its name to begin with? Well, obviously it came from the name of an actual person, hence why it's in this video. The name of the nation is a Portuguese translation of the name of an Arab trader, MOZAMBIQUE, who set up shop on the island and placed himself as Sultan of the island. Back in South America, we have the nation of Bolivia. In 1538, the Spanish conquered the land of Bolivia and it became a part of Peru. It would remain in Spanish rule for just under 300 years when the country was liberated from the Spanish regime, with one of the most important figures in this fight for independence being the Venezuelan freedom fighter Simón Bolívar. The name of this country was chosen in ode to his efforts to freeing the nation, and he even went on to become the first president of the newly founded country. For this next one, huge apologies to anyone named Gilbert. I'm sure you're a lovely person, but when I hear that someone is named Gilbert, I kind of presume you'd be a little bit dorky. Some names just come with connotations, I'm afraid. Now imagine a beautiful sun-drenched island paradise in the midst of the Pacific Ocean. Now imagine that it's called Gilbert. Well, this is kind of the case with the nation of Kiribati. Kiribati is made up of many chains of islands, one of these chains of islands being named the Gilbert Islands. These islands are named after Thomas Gilbert, who arrived there in 1788 and mapped out much of the islands at sea. The Gilbert Islands later became a nation with other islands in the Pacific Ocean, which when they gained independence took on the name Kiribati, which is the local pronunciation of Gilbert. Though the country isn't comically called Gilbert, that English name still lives on in the name of the language and the people in the land, Gilbertese. Finally, we have the Philippines, the island nation in Southeast Asia. The name for these islands began to take shape in 1543 when the Spanish set up permanent colonies on the islands and named them Islas Filipinas, and over time would colonize all the islands that are now part of the Philippines. The Philip the Philippines are named after was Philip II, who while not king when the nation was named after him, he would eventually become the king of Spain. While he and all the other people mentioned on this list are now dead and buried, their legacies live on in the names of these nations. So if you want a country named after yourself, then you better get busy doing something worthwhile. Maybe in the year 2589, my home country of England will be renamed Patricia in my honour. Hey, I can dream, can't I? Just the Philippines was suggested by Stephen Ellis, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explain's patron saint of the Philippines. Do you have a good idea for somewhere that's name could be covered in a Name Explain video? If so, then please consider donating on Patreon. Just $1 a month helps keep the channel running and earns you a weekly chance to suggest somewhere to be turned into a video, and you too could be a Name Explain Patreon saint. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Name Explain depends on small monthly donations from fans like you to help keep the channel running. Just a small amount of $2 a month helps out in a huge way, grants you patron exclusive Name Explain extras, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you.